General Order 7 as of Stardate 1/9608. No Starfleet vessel shall visit the planet Talos IV under any circumstances, emergency or otherwise. This order supersedes General Order 6. Any transgression of this general order shall be punishable by death. By death. Okay. This particular general order has been a mystery and a conundrum for generations, if you go forward enough into the canon. It is the only regulation in general order in Starfleet that carries an automatic death sentence. It's a death penalty for violating this general order number 7. It's interesting to note that it's not just Talos IV not approaching the planet, contacting the planet, receiving communications from the planet, and theoretically, if you watch the season, the first season of the first Star Trek, the TV series with Captain Kirk, it includes the planetary system and the entire Halo star cluster. So in theory, you don't go anywhere near the star cluster, let alone Talos IV specifically, because any and all of that, including communications to and from, can constitute a death warrant. You would be tried, most likely found guilty, and executed. Which, perhaps based off of what we know the Federation's tenets and its personality types, I mean, theoretically speaking, in an era when there is no capital punishment, the most you will end up with is rehabilitation, long-term rehabilitation potentially, although there's a few episodes that suggest otherwise, depending on what era you watch. And I can tell you that in Enterprise, the TV series that predates the forming of the Federation, we know that Data's grandfather, Professor Soon or whatever, is Captain of Supermax. So, he must be deemed too dangerous for rehabilitation, or because it predates the Star Trek, the Federation, the forming of the Federation, it doesn't apply to him because this is Federated Earth or whatever it's called, and not the Federation or the United Earth or whatever. We also know in the first season of Voyager, one of the crew kills somebody. Now, in fairness, Captain Janeway doesn't have the luxury or the access to rehabilitation facilities and special counselors and medical procedures and what have you to fix what's wrong with this gentleman. So she confines him permanently to his quarters. For most intents purposes, they lock him into his quarters. They seal him in. They go to great length to make sure he can't just break out. Which is ironic because I know at least one episode several seasons later, the ship's taken over or incapacitated in some way, and he manages to break out of his cell, out of his chamber, or his quarters, and save the crew in the ship. I could be wrong on that, but I'm pretty sure I saw that episode. I don't remember I don't think his sentence was commuted. I think it was lessened a hair. But murder is still murder and is still considered a capital crime, just that they don't put you out the nearest space lock. They don't put you up against the wall and phaser you. I mean, there's plenty of easy ways of more or less giving you a painless death in kind. But that's not the philosophy of the Federation, at least in the more advanced seasons. I can't speak of the entire thing, of course. Now, can you imagine that you're a cadet at Starfleet Academy and you're expected to memorize and learn, at least have a passing understanding of all of Starfleet's regulations, the hundreds of Starfleet regulations there are, and especially the general orders, which there's only little more than a score of them, 24 right? There's a few extras that are kind of tossed in, but a lot of those are not accessible to the general crew and junior officers. They're special editions, or special general orders, or secret general orders, what have you. That you're told that under no circumstances, under any situation, are you to violate General Order Number 7. And then if anybody at your crew does, it's your duty to put a stop to it as fast as possible, or possibly be held in contempt and or in collusion thereof. This happens in the first season. Yes, it happens. Now, in fairness, it is an absolute. And Starfleet's not really known, Federation's not known for absolutes. They always look for and always encourage for looking to find another way to solve a problem, to find another way, to look outside the box. So you raise an entire generation of Starfleet officers and crew, especially the officers, and if you go by later seasons of DS9, that's all they raise as officers, and apparently that there's nothing but officers crewing Starfleet vessels, and at some point somewhere we did away with the crews. You know, the non-commissioned crew, which is absurd in my opinion. Just saying. Anyway, and you tell them, you train them, you teach them, you encourage them to be as curious as a room full of cats, and then you tell them there's an absolute. You absolutely cannot violate this order. Do not go there, and then they don't tell you why. That's secret. It's a secret. It's a super secret. It's not enough that you gotta, you can't go there. Don't talk to people who come from there. If anybody comes from there, they gotta be shot. If you hear communications and Starfleet finds out about it, you're in deep Dutch. You better be able to explain why they're in communication with you, and why is the method and the madness behind it. That is the mystery of General Order Number 7. But I'm not going to get into detail on that. Not in this video. I'm going to make a separate video on Talos IV, Talasians, and why General Order Number 7 still holds the death penalty as far as Starfleet's concerned. Because you'd think at some point technology and advancements and what have you would render Starfleet General Order Number 7 moot, or at least diminish the need for a death penalty. But there's probably some pretty solid reasons. Or are there? It's a mystery. Till next time, this is the Batman team. Keep your phasers on, stun!